I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Bert Kreischer says these days, there's nothing quite like podcasts. Well said, Bert Kreischer. We're saying wildly outrageous things on podcasts. When times are crazy, comedy shows up. Everybody's got their way of making sense in the world. Everybody's got their own way of dealing. I think people are speaking for real. We forget the mics are on. It's like being a fly on the wall. Our goal is just to make each other giggle. I love the eavesdroppingness of it. Bert says, my favorite thing in the world is history podcasts, Pol Pot and all the dictators, the Great London Fire, and one of my favorite things is to travel and listen on history podcasts. On a trip to Hawaii, he enjoyed a podcast power to help you feel really enmeshed in the culture and the history. But he says the last thing I need to be is the history comedian. New topic. I haven't seen a comedy movie in ages. The old ones are like a warm blanket. Stripes and Caddyshack and all those great movies. No one makes them anymore. They're afraid people will be offended. They're so worried about the 10 people on Twitter who make the most noise. Bert told the Daily Progress it's too easy for a comedian to focus on the one person yelling instead of the 3,000 laughing. I think you've got to ignore it. I keep my head down. If you focus on sharks, you won't enjoy the ocean. I love that. Can we put that on a t-shirt? That is a great phrase. The ever so serious Hari Kondabolu caught up with the Des Moines Register, and the Register says an entire generation of Grinnell college students considers the ever so serious Hari Kondabolu a quintessential part of their Central Iowa education, even though Hari never actually attended the college. For roughly half a decade in his early days on the comedy circuit, Brooklyn-based Hari stopped at Grinnell annually. The student-run newspaper Scarlet and Black asked Hari back in 2017 why he kept coming back, and he said, I don't know. I feel like I could ask the same question. Why Grinnell? But I connect with students here, and they connect with me. One year, they called it the Kondabolu Brothers Festival. They had me perform one night. They had me and my brother do our podcast together, and my brother was in a rap group called Das Racist, so they had them perform that one day as well. So there were 3 days when we were doing something every night. I get alumni mail even though I didn't go here. I feel like this is all part of a weird legacy I didn't expect to happen at the school. Now, a different comedian who actually did graduate from Grinnell College in 2001 is Kumail Nanjiani. When Hari was still appearing at Grinnell, he asked Nanjiani to record a comedic voicemail asking the student body why Kondabolu was invited back instead of him. That's really funny. Hari plans to release a yet untitled hour-long comedy special by the start of 2023. He's also co-hosting a new Netflix show with Megan Statler that's scheduled to debut November 30th. On that show, 12 chefs make iconic snacks and compete for a $50,000 prize. Hari says they keep changing the title. Right now it's called Snack vs. Chef. Boston.com caught up with Dane Cook. He's 50. He's recently engaged to 23-year-old Kelsey. Hey, Dane Cook. You grew up in Arlington. Was there a pivotal moment in your youth that pushed you towards a career in stand-up? Dane Cook said, my very first show outside of Arlington came right after I graduated from AHS. I'm guessing that's Arlington High School. By the way, I'm proudly repping an AHS Spy Ponders hoodie in the Above It All special if you look closely. At the time, there was a place called Catch a Rising Star in Cambridge where you could go and sign up for an open mic night. Now, I didn't sign up for an open mic night. I was too terrified. I would just go and watch other comics. Lo and behold, one night when I was there, the gentleman who was supposed to be going up from the call sheet didn't show up. Nobody knew who he was, but his name was Ernest Glenn. And when the host of the show said, all right, Ernest Glenn, who's that? Where are you at? I thought, oh, wait, they don't even know who Ernest Glenn is. So I put my hand in the air. My first open mic, the first step in this illustrious career was as Ernest Glenn. Apologies to Ernest Glenn if you're reading this interview. Well, Dane, how has your stand-up evolved over the years? Dane Cook said, I've always been a storyteller, even when I was young. When I was younger, it was a very linear kind of storytelling, very physical. I was a whirling dervish on stage, but as I got more mature, I started loving language, painting verbal pictures. I really focused on the idea of LPMs. That stands for laughs per minute. How can I take people on a journey, but not to where it feels like a seminar? From Deadline, the Snoop Dogg sports comedy The Underdoggs, with 2 G's, that's why I pronounce it Underdoggs, has added Mike Epps, Andrew Schultz, and George Lopez. Billed as the bad news bears in the world of youth football, The Underdoggs tells the story of Jason Jennings, a.k.a. 2J's, who's played by Snoop Dogg, a former NFL superstar who, after a run-in with the law, agrees to coach a youth football team in lieu of prison in the hopes of relaunching his fledgling career. That sounds fun enough. I'm surprised Adam Sandler's not part of that plot. Getting pretty close. Gabriel Iglesias' Stadium Fluffy is coming to Netflix October 18th. Stadium Fluffy, that's the show he recorded at Dodger Stadium. In summer of 2021, Gabe was supposed to film his special during a month-long residency in San Antonio. However, at the tail end of that residency, he had to cancel the remainder of his shows when he tested positive for COVID-19. During Stadium Fluffy, Gabe Iglesias talks about his pandemic experience, the controversy he started on Twitter by defending Speedy Gonzalez, cancel culture, his love for his chihuahuas, going trick-or-treating with his son Frankie when he was younger, and a host of other topics. He also shares his vulnerable side when he discusses his 2020 breakup with his longtime partner. He tells the 50,000 fans in the arena what it's like to perform at Dodger Stadium. The answer, it's like a birthday, Christmas, the World Series, and losing my virginity all at the same time. I kind of want to unpack that. I kind of don't. Stadium Fluffy, Netflix, October 18th. Now, you might be like, hey, Johnny Mac, you had been plugging away at that Vulture Comics to Watch list, and then you stopped mentioning it. Did you forget about it? I did not forget about it at all. There's been a lot of news lately. But today's Comedian You Should Know in 2020 is my new favorite and the person with the currently top-ranked stand-up special of the year, according to the Johnny Mac list. He's Sheng Wang. Vulture writes, you don't need to listen too closely to hear the moments when Sheng Wang's laid-back delivery feels indebted to his hero, Mitch Hedberg. In one joke lampooning the idea of people teasing him for wearing a bike helmet, he says, that's my favorite kind of humor, talking trash about safety. If I see a pedestrian crossing the street, I'm like, yo, check out that mama's boy looking both ways. When I cross the street, I look one way, directly at the sun. Best comedy advice, worst comedy advice, best, write every day, perform as much as possible, record audio of every set, and have fun. They can't enjoy the show if you don't. Worst, you should do more Asian jokes. Sheng Wang is fantastic. If you've not watched that special yet on Netflix, do so right now. But not until I tell you about the Plano Comedy Festival. I mean, give me another 2 minutes here, will you? Relax. The Plano Comedy Festival is a concentrated effort by a team of Plano's best comedy producers to combine their efforts and produce the best weekend of comedy the city of Plano can offer. The first Plano Comedy Festival occurred in June of 2018. The goal is to bring awareness to the rapidly growing comedy scene local to the hot air balloon capital of the world, Plano, Texas. Pretty good lineup. Over 100 comics performing on the 4th annual Plano Comedy Festival. Jackie Cation, Mike E. Winfield, and one of my personal favorites, Matthew Broussard. I didn't realize Matthew Broussard was born in New Jersey or raised in Atlanta. Didn't know either of those. He was winner of 2012's Houston's Funniest Person. I wonder how that works. Born in New Jersey, raised in Atlanta, whatever. I saw him at Just for Laughs New Faces a few years back. He's really fantastic. The copy here adds, Matthew Broussard is not exactly sure where he's from. Matthew earned a degree in applied mathematics and a job as a financial analyst before moving to West Hollywood to pursue stand-up comedy full-time. His brand of playful, witty humor covers topics from physics and grammar to the hardships of looking like an 80s movie villain. That's one of his best jokes that he spoiled and I spoiled, but it's still funny. And a big shout out to friend of the show, Dan Bublitz Jr. He's heading to Plano, the hot air balloon festival, capital of the world, or whatever I'm supposed to be saying about it. Anyway, Dan Bublitz Jr., he's on the Blue Show tomorrow. So if you're in Plano or in a hot air balloon or nearby, or I don't know, let's support Dan. He's a friend of the show. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your shows. Dan, you crush it tomorrow night. See you tomorrow. Well, I'm not going to Plano. You know what I mean. I always say see you tomorrow. That's how I wrap the podcast. Dan, I'm not going.